Welcome. The chosen one lies on the chosen ones. You don't simply destroy bridges, you set the entire spiritual courthouse on fire. Let it sit for a while. They don't want to admit this when they lie to you. They didn't only talk behind one another's backs. They signed a deal that had repercussions. And what now? Now they're keeping very, very far away from you. Not because you're a danger, but because they shared their little bedtime tale to someone who doesn't believe it. And here's a fun fact. Most individuals can't even recall what they lied about last week, according to studies. But we carry receipts in spirit and in quiet for the chosen ones, and infant silence doesn't imply safe. That means case spending. So if you see people suddenly becoming ghosts, avoiding your name like it's cursed, or facing the other way when you walk into a room, don't simply think they're being weird. No, that's guilt performing the electric slide because they aren't frightened of a fight. They are worried that the person they deceived to is now covertly observing you and figuring out that you were right all along. Get your tea. Or even better, put on your armor. This isn't just another video. This is the divine judgment. They didn't see it coming. Let's speak about it. First of all, they felt they were simply lying. They set off an inquiry by God by mistake. They felt it was just a little fib. A few twisted words, a lie, and a talk behind closed doors. They thought it would remain secret and not hurt anybody. But they didn't know this. When you lie to someone you care about, you're not simply having fun with them. You're going into a place where things that are bigger than people can see are watching. They didn't know how serious what they'd done was. The person they told that untruth to didn't merely hear it. It rang out in the spiritual world. It was recorded, written down, and noted. Because when someone talks badly about a soul that has been marked by God, heaven hears. When someone walks with divine purpose, there is no such thing as merely drama. That little deception, no matter how little and devious it seemed at the time, led to something far greater than them. It started an inquiry that simply needs the truth, not warrants or wiretaps. And now they are uneasy, restless, and far away. Not because you stood up to them. You didn't have to. Not because you told them. You didn't say anything, but they can sense it deep inside. Things changed when they spoke out against you. People assume that karma always gets you. It doesn't always show up as punishment. Sometimes it comes up fast as exposure. The folks they sought to persuade that their CI was dying. Now they're studying you intently, putting the pieces together, and recognizing that what they were taught doesn't match what they're seeing. They're not going away from you. They're moving away from them. That's the bit that the liar didn't expect. They didn't think that the falsehood would hurt their own credibility. They believed they could smear your name and get away with it. But now they go about with worry. They're nervous and don't want to be around others. Not because you're dangerous, but because their falsehood set off a chain reaction they can't control or stop. It was heard in heaven. Truth is reacting, and they know it. They didn't tell the truth. They started a heavenly audit. And now they're hiding from what they asked for. Every door that slammed in their face, every abrupt pain, and every random moment of exposure all go back to that one lie, the one they told about the wrong person. You are number two. They lied to someone who really had authority. They genuinely felt they were being smart. They felt they could talk bad about you to someone and not get in trouble, like they presumably did to other people before. But this time, they messed up big time. They told the incorrect person lies about you. Not just any random year, but a year that someone with power chose. Someone who is deep spiritually. A person who doesn't merely believe what they hear. They believe they could change the reality and go. But the guy they rushed to had good judgment. Not only do they listen to tales, but they also pay attention to energy. And they still didn't believe you after hearing your name dragged. They were interested. That individual didn't just believe the lie. They began to study you intently. They saw how you act, how you treat other people, and how you go through life without being bitter. And the more they watched you, the more they lied. A tale began to come apart. The times didn't match. The information didn't make sense. The tone was off. Your name didn't have the pandemonium they sought to link it to. It had brought tranquility. It was consistent. It had something authentic in it. The liar is now in an awkward position. They can sense the energy change. They realize that others are looking at them in a different manner than they wanted. People start to question everything, including the source of the deception, when they start to see the truth. And that's what is going on now. The same mouth that sought to damage a reputation is now being looked into quietly. They don't even realize they're being researched. This is why they don't want to see you right now. Not because they're busy or have moved on, but because they're afraid. Afraid that the person they told their secret to is seen through the lies. Worried that allegiance is changing. Afraid that you're not merely standing motionless. You're glowing. They know they did something wrong, but they won't admit it. Instead, they stay away, thinking that time would erase what they've done. But it won't. They didn't think you were that smart. But they also didn't give enough care to the individual they felt they could lie to and poison. And now they're coping with the silent aftermath where the truth is coming out and they're caught choking on their own lies. Third, they can't confront you because you are the evidence. They were not telling the truth. They can't face you because your sheer existence exposes the falsehood. You didn't have to explain anything, defend yourself, or fight back. You simply continue being yourself, calm, steady, and not worried. And that's what's going to kill them. People who lie depend on things to go wrong. They want you to lose your head and lash out, which will prove their argument. But if you remain steady and keep living with grace and truth, it makes a big difference between who you actually are and who they attempted to sell you. That difference is really clear. People start to compare even when they don't say anything. They begin to see how your actions are different from what they say you did. And that eats at the liar because no matter how many lies they tell, you're still like a mirror to the truth. Every time they see you, it's like being forced to see proof of their own dishonesty. They don't want to be around you because they are humble and hate you. You don't like to fight. It's not even that they're afraid of what you'll say. It's more than that. It's about shame because it's hard to be around someone when you know they didn't deserve what you did to them. It's hard to look someone in the eye when you know the harm you attempted to do didn't succeed. And even worse, you made them appear better, stronger, and more stable. They are now in the uncomfortable position of having to act like nothing occurred, even though they know the truth is out there every time you walk up. They like to try to affect how others thought of you. But all it did was show off your personality. And now they're scared because you didn't have to do anything to clear your reputation. You simply kept showing up, and the truth took care of the rest. So they don't come. Not because they're done with it, but because you're still there. They thought you would break apart, but you didn't. You didn't turn into the issue. You become the evidence. And for them, that's worse than any fight could ever be. They can't explain away the fact that you are the opposite of what they want, which makes it hard for them to be around you. 4. They are worried that the individual they deceived to is suddenly secretly on your side. They aren't simply ignoring you. They're keeping an eye on the people who are observing them since the individual they lied to isn't behaving the way they thought they would. There's no proof, no blind allegiance, and no leaping to conclusions, just stillness. And that quiet is louder than any confirmation since the liar is now second-guessing everything. They are asking themselves, did they believe me or did I just show myself? That question is killing them because manipulators love to get feedback. They use people's reactions to see how well their deception worked. But this time they didn't get anything. There was no talk, no agreement, no turmoil around you, just that creepy stillness. And in that quiet, the person they sought to control is watching you. They're not talking about it, but they're paying attention to what you do and how you behave. And they're starting to understand that what they were taught about you isn't true. That's why the liar is feeling bad now. They realize that when someone becomes silent after hearing a falsehood, they aren't ignoring it. They're working on it. They are making their own decisions. They aren't spreading it. They aren't closing it down. They are simply sitting there with their eyes wide open. And that's the worst place for a liar to be when someone is watching them without saying anything. The liar now thinks the worst, that the person they sought to convert against you could be changing their mind. They might be feeling bad about it. They could even be secretly on your side, or worse, getting ready to tell everyone what was said. The fact that this may happen is enough to keep them away from you. Not because they feel bad, but because they know their time is running out. You don't even need to say anything. Your silence and theirs are making a wall around the truth, and they're stuck outside of it. That's why they are scared. Not because they're scared of you confronting them, but because they can't control what others are thinking, what questions are being asked, or what could come out next. The falsehood was told, but it didn't work. And now they're scared. You didn't have to do anything, and they made their own collapse. 5. They lied to someone who was already suspicious of them. They didn't simply lie. They showed their true colors. They didn't know that the person they lied to had already been quietly doubting them. There were little things, small differences, times when what they said didn't match what they did, but nothing strong enough to call them out on. After then, your name altered everything. When they spoke about you with phony care or hidden anger, it wasn't simply talk. It was a test of faith, a divine plan. Your name was the thing that showed who they really were. The other person felt something change as soon as they opened their lips and lied about you. It proved the suspicion. They didn't even know they were holding it, and they showed the mask without you being there. Some folks don't speak much, but they do pay attention. They can hear tones and feel energy. And when they heard your name being misused, something clicked. They thought, if they can lie about this person, what else have they lied about? And just like that, the liar's credibility started to fall apart. Not because you stood up for yourself, but because they displayed their true colors. That individual is far away now. Not from you, but from them. The liar knows it, feels it, and it's making them squirm. They believe that by spreading that untruth, they would have an ally, but they instead lost one. The link they believed they could control merely became colder, quieter, and sharper. And they know deep inside that it's because of that decision, that moment, when they used your name as a weapon. That's why they're not coming around anymore. It's not because they think you're a danger. It's because they realize the person they attempted to poison is now looking at them in a different light. They showed that envy even if they had to hurt someone to feel better about themselves. And the worst part is that they did it in front of someone whose respect really mattered. So they back off not because they feel bad, but because they are scared. When a mask falls off in front of the wrong person, you can't put it back on. 6. People who have lied to you can't tolerate being around you because your vibe is too clean. They can't stand being around you anymore. And it doesn't have anything to do with fear, as most people imagine. It's not because you're rude or hard to get along with. You are not. This is because their spirit can't dwell in your energy anymore. When someone lies about a chosen one, they're not simply spreading rumors. They're hurting themselves. That lie leaves behind a spiritual residue that sticks to them like smoke. After fire, it changes their energy. And now they really feel it when they get close to you. Your presence is too tidy and too aligned. You move in a way that is honest, holy, and steady. You're not flawless, but your enthusiasm is real. And sincerity has a frequency that lies and can't be in harmony with. So when people come into your zone, there is a conflict that is not authorized, but it is a silent one. Their stomachs churn, their chests tense, and their nerves go up. Not because you're doing anything, but because your energy is doing everything that makes them feel guilty. It's not meant to scare you. It's not compatible. When people talk bad about you, they poison their own soul. And now they remember that when they feel your presence, when they are around you, it's like looking into a spiritual mirror that shows them everything they attempted to conceal. And while you're there, they can't stop thinking about it. They can't escape the humiliation they thought would go away. You unwittingly bring out their inner struggle, guilt, and unresolved conscience, which is why they keep away. Not because they've moved on or forgotten, but because they feel vulnerable even when you don't try. Your purity makes their filth stand out. Your calmness makes their inner turbulence worse, and the longer they stay away from you, the more evident it is that they aren't avoiding you. They don't want to be the person they were when they sought to hurt your reputation. This isn't about being afraid. It's about being out of sync with your energy, which they made and now can't get away from. Number 7, their falsehood backfired and made others want to know more about you. They were so convinced that their lie would destroy you that they thought all they had to do was say anything bad about you, and everyone around them would turn their backs on you without doubt. They felt their words were strong enough to obliterate your reality, your existence, and your character. But as soon as they said, they did the opposite. They didn't want to, yet they attracted people toward you instead of pushing them away. That's what falsehoods about chosen ones are like. They become old quickly and severely. People were interested as soon as they sought to remain in your name. Not everyone takes what they hear at value. Some people really do think for themselves. And when they spoke your name in a bad way, instead of pulling away, they leaned closer. They began to observe you silently, taking note of how you live, how you move, and how you treat others. They began to dig on their own, and what they discovered didn't match the picture of you that the liars sought to paint. They found someone strong, someone genuine, someone who didn't fit the bitterness they had been told about. They witnessed how graceful you were under pressure, how real you were, and how consistent you were. The attention abruptly changed. The issue wasn't you anymore. It was the person who recounted the tale. Their anger began to seem strange. Their drama started to appear fake, and their credibility began to fade. That's when the avoidance began. Not from the public, but from the liar themselves, since they knew they had lost control. The story didn't turn out the way they wanted it to. The falsehood they said was meant to make you smaller. Instead, it made you more visible. It made folks want to know more. The untruth didn't stand a chance once curiosity faced the reality. Now they're quiet, hidden, and far away. Not because they're busy or because they've moved on, but because they can't tolerate that your breakthrough happened in their own lips. The weapon they made didn't simply not work. It showed how insecure and desperate they were. They attempted to get rid of you, but all they did was make people pay more attention. And what others saw made the liar unimportant. They knew what they said may hurt you, yet it didn't. They were hoping you would die. They didn't merely toss your name in the soil for fun. They understood precisely what they were doing. They made that untruth on purpose to harm you where it hurts. It wasn't merely to hurt your reputation that they did it. They aimed to shatter you, make you feel alone, hurt your reputation, confidence, and tranquility. They told you that falsehood because they wanted it to follow you around like a curse. But something occurred that they didn't see coming. You didn't fall. Instead of going down, you began to rise slowly, strongly. You didn't respond. You didn't become smaller. And you didn't need anybody else's approval. You got an upgrade. Your radiance became louder. Your way of thinking changed. You marched through the smoke of that sabotage and came out looking better than ever. And it scared them to death because they realized how dangerous their remarks may have been. They thought you would give up because of how hard it was. They were ready to sit back and see what happened next, but nothing happened. You didn't fall apart. You got better. That type of strength is scary, particularly to someone who thought you would fail. Every time they see you now, they are reminded that their greatest shot didn't succeed and that their most well-planned effort to break you failed. You did well in situations they set up to kill you. And that's not simply annoying for them. It's scary since they don't know anything anymore. They will attempt to stick. No falsehoods, no shadow, and no manipulation. They no longer have control over your life. And it makes them feel helpless. That's why people stay away from you. Not because they feel bad. Not because they've become bigger, but because they are ashamed of how you live. You are living proof that they didn't succeed. And the last thing they want is to be next to their own defeat. You were a live reminder that they couldn't halt what God had safeguarded. And now they can't stop thinking about the fact that no weapon made against you will ever work. Not because the weapon isn't real, but because you are stronger than anything they can make. Number 9, they didn't just tell the truth. They changed your character like they were God. They didn't only talk behind one another's backs. They went even further. They tried to change you completely, not just a small detail or an event. They tried to make up a completely fake version of you from scratch. They made you look bitter, fake, manipulative, or whatever else fit their plan. And they were sure of themselves when they did it. Like they were God and could take away your true identity with just a few convincing words. But here's the deal with trying to play God with someone else's name. Reality doesn't work with you. The truth has a heartbeat. It lives and breathes. And no matter how hard they tried to change who you are, your real self kept coming through loud and clear. The kindness you still showed to others, the honesty you lived by, and the clarity in your spirit. How people felt around you, calm, seen, or happy. It all clashed violently with the picture they were trying to sell. And that's when they started to fall apart. They weren't just lying to other people. They were lying to themselves. They had to believe the lie to make sense of how they treated you, to feel better about themselves, and to feel powerful. But your honesty wouldn't let that lie go. And the more you showed your true self, the more their inner world began to break down. They couldn't deal with the noise. Your light was showing the shadow they made. And it wasn't just uncomfortable. It made things unstable. They don't stay away from you because they don't like you. At this point, it's not even about being angry. They stay away from you because seeing you would break the illusion they've made to stay alive. Being around you makes them admit that they were wrong, mean, and maybe even jealous. It threatens the sense of superiority or control they built into their egos. They don't hide from you because you're dangerous. They hide from you because you're real. And reality has become too much for someone who built their comfort on lies. They tried to change your truth and put in their own, but truth doesn't need permission to be known. That's exactly how it is. And now it's wandering across the room with your face on as the story falls apart in the backdrop. 10. They're avoiding you because they know you have the receipts, both spiritually and practically. They believe you were silent because you didn't know what to say. Liars always hope you didn't notice the change, the shade, or the setup. But they got your quiet wrong. They didn't comprehend that your quiet is your weapon. It's not being lazy, it's being exact. You saw everything. You heard everything. You put the pieces together. And while they were busy performing, you were writing down what they were doing in a spiritual and literal way. The reality is you haven't spoken out because you know how heavy what you carry is, not because you can't. You have timestamps, patterns, screenshots, conversations burnt into your mind, and a spiritual radar that never misses. You knew about the change before it was made public. You felt the betrayal before you knew what it was. And now they have to live with the fact that you know and can prove it. That's why they don't want to see you. It's not shame. It's the dread of being seen. They perceive you as a locked vault with all the things they wanted to keep hidden. You have the receipts that might ruin the picture they've been meticulously putting together. You have the type of proof, both stated and unspoken, that may change the whole story and leave them standing in the ashes of their own existence. You didn't need to get back at them. You didn't have to tell everyone about them. Your self-control speaks more than any fight ever could. And that restraint scares them because people like them are accustomed to drama, explosions, and quick responses. But you gave them time, strategy, and stillness. And in that space, their minds have been doing all the harm. What if they say something? What if they show someone? What if they show you everything so you don't go too close and never decide to unlock the vault? They know they've given you every excuse to do it. But you didn't. But they also know that if you ever do decide to talk, it's all over. Not because you want to hurt someone, but because you are living evidence that the truth doesn't hurry. It sits there. And when it does come, it doesn't knock. It comes in with receipts. The person who lied to you has already spoken sorry to you in private. This is the part they never saw coming when they were out there dragging your name through the mud, telling their side of the story, and trying to get others to believe them. There was something going wrong behind the scenes. The person they sought to poison against you, the one they thought would side with them, came to you not to perform or feel sorry for you. They arrived with a sense of humility. It may not have been a big deal to say sorry. It may not have been a lengthy explanation. But it was true. It was true. It showed you that they knew the truth. Sometimes they sent you a brief note, sometimes they altered the way they treated you, and occasionally they gave you unexpected help, favors, or chances that made it apparent they no longer believe the illusion that quiet reconciliation changed everything. And now the liar knows it. They haven't been informed explicitly, but they know they don't feel like they belong. They may sense the change in energy. They may sense how far away they are from the person they used to control easily. And they're not avoiding you because of what you said. They are avoiding you because of what you have previously said. The private apology, the silent act of making things right, it's a sign from God. The truth will always get to the proper people, even if you don't help. You didn't have to run for office for your character. You didn't have to make things obvious. All you had to do was be authentic. And time did the talking. That intimate moment turned into a quiet earthquake in the liar's life. They lost control of the story. They lost the capacity to use someone else's allegiance as a weapon. Now they're staying away from you and everyone else since they can't control the room anymore. The allies they used to rely on have either become neutral or worse, turned against you. And that scares them. It's not simply strong when individuals start to realize the truth for themselves. It will last forever. They're not plagued by what they did, but by how much it cost them. That falsehood lost them trust, intimacy, and their reputation. And deep inside, they realized they lost more than they would ever be able to gain back. Number. They're scared you'll treat them the same way they treated you. They aren't fleeing because you scared them. They aren't avoiding you because you said something crazy behind closed doors. They don't want to talk to you because they're afraid you'll do what they did. They know how far they went and how nasty, planned, and despicable they went. They know the stories they told, the discussions they sparked, and the bridges they sought to destroy behind your back. And now they have to deal with one scary question. What if you do it again? That's the messed up part about projection. People who manipulate others think you will too, not because you've done anything to indicate it, but because they see you through the flawed lens of their own character. They think that your silence means retaliation. They think your essay will get back at them. They believe that your self-control is just temporary and that you'll soon turn the tables and give them a taste of what they gave you. But this is what truly scares them. You didn't. You didn't get back at them. You didn't spread lies about someone. You didn't go down to their level. And that quiet and respect is what is killing them. Because now they're locked in a spotlight they made themselves. You're not making any noise. You're not looking for drama. You're not crazy. Yes, they are. They are the ones who can't let it go. They're the ones who are still keeping an eye on you. They're the ones telling a narrative that no one even asked for. Your article became their punishment. Your elevation made their bitterness appear petty. The more you flourished in quiet, the louder their toxins rang. And that's why they're terrified not of what you'll say, not even of what you may reveal, but of the fact that by doing nothing, you've done everything you put a mirror up to their conduct simply by refusing to match it. They can't bear to be around someone who didn't break, someone who didn't need to clap back to win. Someone who survived through the betrayal, stood steadfast, and yet refused to move with hatred. That's not weakness. That's power. And it's the type of power they'll never comprehend. Because if they did, they would have never deceived you in the first place. Number. They know the truth always comes for its throne. They believe they could outrun the truth, that if they moved fast enough, spoke loud enough, and circulated their version first, people would accept it as gospel. They mistook momentary stillness with lasting safety. But truth doesn't panic. It doesn't pursue. It doesn't ask to be heard. Truth waits because it knows that it will always win in the end. That's what's bothering them right now. Not the past, but what's going to happen. They can sense it coming. That gradual, hefty shift when the false narrative they weave begins crumbling under its own weight. They sought to erect a throne for a falsehood, fill it with drama, and get others to kneel down to it. But the truth has been marching softly, collecting power, gaining witnesses, and honing its clarity. And now it's at the door, eager to retake what was always its. You don't have to yell. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to compel others to see it. You are the proof. You carry the weight of consistency, elegance, and the unmistakable energy of someone who doesn't need to deceive to seem nice. And it's the very thing that scares them. They don't fear you personally. They dread the moment. The one when the people they persuaded ultimately compare your deeds to their charges, where your fruit speaks louder than their fiction, where your progress reveals their desire to tear someone down simply to feel important. They dread that moment that the audience begins saying, wait, maybe we were wrong about them. They dread truth sitting on the throne because that throne would disclose all they sacrificed to keep a falsehood alive. Relationships, credibility, trust. And once truth triumphs, there's no turning back. No way to alter the tale again. No cover strong enough to disguise what everyone can now see. So they keep away. Not because they've moved on, but because deep down they know what's coming, and they'd rather go before the time comes than stand in front of you and watch all they created break apart in slow motion. Number. They can't get close to you since they lied and got you a promotion. This is the portion that eats them alive. They wanted to hurt your reputation, dim your light, and put space between you and the individuals who may have helped you flourish. But instead of devastation, something else occurred. You were elevated not by people-pleasing, not by clapping back, but by divine alignment. Their untruth didn't impede your blessing. It became the vehicle that delivered it by dragging your name. They truly cleared your path. The individuals who were never for you, who fluctuated with every rumor, who hesitated in their commitment, they all drifted away. The phony pals, the energy drains, the clout chasers. They were sorted out, and what was left? Clarity of goal, force. And in that precious place of isolation, you stopped explaining and began developing. What they intended for sabotage became your acceleration. The deception was the lens through which you finally saw who was really with you. It exposed hidden opponents and highlighted surprising supporters. And while they were waiting to see you disintegrate, you were silently becoming upgraded in knowledge and influence and spiritual power. That type of radiance can't be faked, and it surely can't be reversed. No, they can't get near you, not because you're angry or carrying a grudge, but because you've soared above the room. They sought to trap you in their deception, made you level up their treachery, drove you into purpose. Their deception failed so wonderfully that even they can't pretend not to notice. And deep down, they know if they were to stand by you today, everyone would see the truth without you uttering a word. That's the force of heavenly vindication. When your adversaries unwittingly become the footstool that raises you. When the exact weapon they use to attack you turns becomes your testimony. You didn't merely endure the defamation. You outgrown it. And now they're left gazing at a version of you they never intended to create. The irony is awful. They attempted to cancel you, but they propelled you. There's no untruth powerful enough to destroy what God used to promote you. That's why they keep away. Because meeting you now would mean facing the fact that they were never strong enough to shatter what heaven already set for elevation. Here's the reality they can't outrun, no matter how far they back away from you. You were the proof that the falsehood was never strong to begin with. You didn't have to reveal them. You didn't have to defend yourself. Your existence has been doing the job for you. And that's what's pushing them into quiet, remoteness, and bewilderment. Because every time they see you, they're reminded of their failed prophecy. They claimed you'd fall, not Eros. People told you that others would turn on you, yet new ones came with good intentions. They heard you were dangerous, hard to deal with, and unstable. But suddenly your silence is the loudest thing in a room. The problem about divine justice is that it never comes in a loud, furious way. It comes straight, without a doubt, and humiliating. You didn't have to touch the crown. You let truth sit on its throne. And now, without moving a finger, you're strolling in a level of favor, awareness, and spiritual credibility that cannot be faked or controlled. Let this be your confirmation. You are not someone they can vanquish in the shadows. You are the one the truth always rounds back to, no matter how long it takes. Your ascension was never delayed. It was protected. Their lying didn't impede your future. It disclosed it. The treachery didn't destroy your name. It triggered it. So walked every selected one stroll with grace. But don't discount the justice that's happening around you. They're maintaining their distance. Not because you're a danger, but because your mere existence reminds them of a reality they attempted to obliterate and failed. You are the living antithesis to what they told the world about you. And that paradox is flashing brighter than ever. You never needed vengeance. You became the revelation. And if this message aroused something in your soul, if it seemed like it was speaking directly to your narrative, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another profound revelation specifically designed for selected ones like you like this video. To let the algorithm know this fact needs to reach more individuals. Comment here and share your experience. Your voice could be the encouragement someone else has been praying for. Share this with someone who's gone through betrayal, spiritual warfare, or quiet conflicts. Let them know they're not insane. That's elected. And this is more than a channel. It's a movement of the awakened. Let's keep expanding, illuminating, and uplifting together. Your story matters. Your truth is rising, and your light is too great to dull. Stay tuned. Remain tough, and remain subscribed because your finest chapters haven't even been written yet. God bless you.